Hi, welcome to Success from the Soul. And today on the show, we have Billy Bross. And Billy is an expert in marketing consulting. And today we've got him on the show today speaking with us about online courses and copywriting. So, Billy, welcome and please share a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Eesha, so thanks so much for having me. Really pumped to be here. And yeah, happy to share what I'm up to and how I got into this crazy world of online marketing and online courses. So what I do is I work with online course creators and niche online schools to help them enroll more students, to grow their business and have more success. And I got into it by I guess it was about 10 years ago now, selling my own courses in the beer brewing niche of all things.
That's really cool. Beer brewing is something that, I imagine a lot of people would say, oh, you can't be successful at that. And clearly you've done it. So tell me a little bit about how you actually started and then how you actually got successful in that.
Sure, yeah, it surprised me as well. So, so it was a really cool story. I actually had a great job. I was working in the consulting world, doing clean energy consulting. So solar power, wind power, that type of thing. So totally different than what I do now. And a lot of people who have this story where they left the corporate world, they talk about how much they hated their job and how much they couldn't wait to get out of there. And that actually wasn't the case for me. I actually really liked my job and I really liked the people I was working with. It was a small company. We were all very tight. And so I wasn't super motivated to leave. And that's why it took about 5 or 6 years before I finally did leave and pursue my website full time. But the reason why I did that, why I started the website on the side, was because really I've just always had this entrepreneurial itch and I couldn't stay working for someone else for too much longer. I was ready to get out and do my own thing. So I spent nights and weekends building this beer blog, which eventually turned into courses that I was selling. And next thing I know, I was able to leave that job because my income had about matched what I was making there. And so it was a smooth transition into being a full-time solopreneur.
So just give us a time frame again. So from having the idea to building this, how many years was it before you could say, right, that's it, I'm switching into this full time?
So I made my first sale of an online course. My first online course was a beginner beer brewing course. I'll never forget. It was a guy named Rich who bought it, and it was $29.95, which I can't believe it was so cheap. But I was pumped. I was really happy, and I did a couple of $1,000s in that first launch, and then grew from there. But it was 2014, so about 4 years it took me to go full time solopreneur.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So my next question to you is why online courses and where do you feel online courses sit in the trajectory of business and entrepreneurship?
Yeah, well, lots of reasons. I mean, one, I'm just a really curious person. I've always had a ton of different interests, a ton of different hobbies. I mean, home brewing beer is just one of many that I have. So online courses are just a natural fit for me because, I mean, I always joke about this, that the reason why I work with online course creators is so I can go through all their courses and all their content and learn all their stuff. So it's an area, I like learning. And so that part of it is just a real draw for me. And from a business perspective, I mean, it's just such a great area of opportunity right now. I mean, it's hundreds of billions of dollars, this market, and it's only growing. And the traditional education industry is it's outdated and it's being disrupted at a really fast rate right now. And anytime there's disruption in an industry, it creates a lot of opportunity. And so it's really cool to see how far it's come over the past 10 years. Because when I first got started, it wasn't really even called, you didn't really have terms like online course creator. It was more so information marketing. And the quality of the product wasn't nearly as good as what it is now. I mean, I remember mine were actually pretty good. Mine were on the cutting edge back then. I was actually doing video courses. I had a learning management solution, but a lot of courses I bought back then were just really a folder full of files that you would go through on your desktop. And now we have live teaching, we have coaching components, we have communities, we have breakout groups. So the product of online education is getting better and better, and it's just a really good place to be right now, and it's very lucrative if you can stand out and if you can grow a good business.
Well, this is the multi-million dollar question then, isn't it? So how do you actually stand out above the crowd, particularly when it is actually quite a competitive market now?
Yeah, it's tougher than ever before. You know, that's the thing, wherever there's a lot of opportunity, you have a lot of people flooding in to capture that opportunity, right? So you do have to stand out, because if you're just selling a photography 101 course or a baking 101 or an internet marketing 101, you're not going to do very well, because it's just very generic and there's 1,000 other courses just like yours. So there's a few different ways you can stand out. For one, you have to realize that there are some really small but lucrative niches out there. So don't go too broad. Most people can really benefit from niching down more. So if you think about, I'll give you an example. So take a fitness course, or let's say a diet program. So in the health niche, even if you think you're being targeted by targeting, say, men, there's still a big difference in targeting young men, like men in their early 20s versus men in their 50s. Right? So in that market, especially something as broad as fitness, you can really benefit from niching down. And then, so let's say you target the men in their 20s. Well, maybe you target people who are more looking for like general health and well-being and like long-term health. And then, another group you could target might be men who want to run Spartan races and do all those warrior dashes and crazy stuff like that.
Right.
And so, there's a lot of people in this world. We have billions of people. And you don't need too many of them to build a really big business.
Right. Some really good tips there. And so your expertise is in copywriting, yeah? And copywriting, is one of those things that I feel is crucial to getting people in the door, because you can have the best course ever. Like the actual content of your course can be amazing, but if it's not marketed correctly, if you haven't done your email sequences correctly, you're not actually going to get that person giving you those dollars so that they can learn your course. Right. Yeah. So from your experience in launching courses, and I know that you've actually worked with people from teachable.com, you've actually helped some amazing, course creators launch some of their products. So I'd love to hear some of the things you've learned in the before people buy the course stage of the game so that they can actually sell it to begin with.
Yeah. Good question. Yeah. Copywriting is such an important skill to have. And it's really a skill that, in my opinion, every single person should learn. Even if you're not in business, because we function by communicating, right? We're always communicating, whether it's verbally or print or video or audio or whatever. And copywriting is it's a really great way to get your point across and to persuade people, because we're always persuading. So this was a skill that I didn't know existed. I'll be honest. When I first read it, I was like, do you mean like copywriting a book, like a legal thing? But no, it's copywriting with an R. Copywriting with a W is something different. And I describe it as salesmanship in print.
Yeah.
And that's how I best understand it. And so this is something I had to learn, and it really is the key to selling online courses, because you have to communicate your value. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like everyone knows that feeling of being in a conversation with someone in person and having that word on the tip of your tongue, and you just can't find it. And that like your message is good. It has value. You just can't get that message out because you can't find the right words. Well, there's a lot of really good courses out there, a lot of really good products. But if you can't communicate that, if you can't communicate the value, no one's going to get the message. No one's going to buy.
Right. So what are some very practical tips that people can, use so that they can have better copy when they're writing their emails?
Yeah. So the first one is to write like you talk. And this was a really big one for me to learn, because because of my background. Like I said, I was working in the energy industry. So I had big, like Fortune 500 clients. I had government agencies, the Department of Energy, Homeland Security. And so you can imagine, like, writing for them is different than writing for a bunch of beer drinkers, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And so I was used to this, to writing technical reports, very dry, very bland, very boring. But when you're writing copy, when you're trying to persuade someone, you don't want them to notice the words so much. You want them to forget that they're reading something. You want them to hear your voice and for them to feel like they're having a conversation with you. Mm-hmm. So the best copywriting is very conversational. And if you struggle with this, one thing you can do is to talk or speak your copy. And so you can talk it out loud and record it, and then you can listen to it and write down what you hear. Because it's, I read some copy from people who I know, and when I'm reading their copy, I'm like, this sounds nothing like you. you don't use, like buddies of mine, like, you don't use these big words in person. Don't use them in your copy.
Right. That's an amazing tip. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see when people are first starting to write copy?
Yeah. So one of the biggest offenders is definitely taking a me-focused approach. And by me, I mean the company, the business owner, me, instead of you, the reader. Right. So you read a lot of copy that has words like I, we, us. But I mean, if I had to, there's two words that I'll give them both to you that I think are just extremely the most powerful words in copywriting. And one of them is you. So if you want to do a quick audit of your copy, just to go onto your website, hit whatever it is, Control F, bring up the little find box, and then type in you, and that thing should be lighting up like a Christmas tree.
Right. Yeah.
And then type in we or I, and you shouldn't see a whole lot of color.
Okay. Cool. And what was the second word?
Because.
Can you give me an example of that? Like how you use it in copy?
Sure. Yeah. So, and the idea behind it doesn't have to be that specific word, because the main idea is that you're giving people a reason why. So there's a famous study about this where these psychologists were studying persuasion, and a woman was standing in line to use a copy machine at an office to make photocopies, and she was behind like 20 people. And when she would ask, hey, can I cut you in line? She got whatever the response rate was, maybe like 30%, 40%. But when she followed that up with because, so the after scenario was, hey, can I cut in line because, and then gave a reason. And it was a really silly reason. It was something like, because I need to make copies. So an obvious reason, the response rate doubled.
Wow.
Yeah. So the idea is, so an example of this is, well, I work with obviously a lot of online courses, and we do marketing campaigns. We do big marketing pushes, and that's how we get an influx of customers and revenue. And we like to, whenever you do a promotion, you have to have a reason why you do the promotion. You don't have to, but it makes it a lot more potent, just like that example I gave you. So maybe the reason why is it's a holiday. Maybe the reason why is it's your birthday. Maybe the reason why is you have a new version of your course coming out. So it doesn't just apply to the specific words that you use. Like, yes, the word because will help you be more persuasive. So join my course because it will help you in this scenario. Sure. But also the strategy as a whole, just using the concept of reason why marketing and having a reason why you're showing up in their inbox and conveying that it's because it's going to provide value to them. That's a really powerful thing you can inject into your copy. Does that make sense?
Okay. It does. I have some questions around that. So I just want to dig into this because this is interesting for me. So, okay, say for example, it isn't a holiday and there's no like external reason, you haven't launched a version 2, what is then your reason and how are you conveying that?
So what are some reasons why you could do a campaign?
Yeah.
Well, I would find a reason. I would always find one. So one reason could be an outside trend that's happening. So that's why it's important to pay attention to things that are happening in the marketplace. Right. And B, there's a lot of benefits to that. I mean, for one, you're seen as a thought leader because people don't want to pay attention to what's going on. They want you to tell them what's going on and what they should care about and worry about and take advantage of. So if you can be that person who's on top of things, I use Google Alerts. That's how I do it. So you see a news item come in and you see how this could benefit your people. Mm-hmm. That could be a reason why to email them, to get in touch with them and to do a promotion. So you have to always have your antennas up as a marketer and always be looking for those reasons why. And it's totally valid too. I mean, that, like anything, persuasion, copywriting, it can be used for good or for evil. So obviously, use this for good. And I'm assuming that everyone is doing that and has a quality product and can deliver on that. But I'm sure that's the case.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a very quality audience watching this.
Absolutely.
Okay, so yeah, there's some very valuable tips in that. I guess for somebody who's just starting out and, they've got a list of, like, say, 0, right? Like, they've probably got a Facebook page and, their auntie and their uncle and their cousin's second something, like, like that's the sort of level that some of these people are at. What are the first steps these people would take to actually grow that list?
Good question. So I would take a 2-pronged approach. So the way that I grew my list was really just through blogging.
Mm-hmm.
I had other traffic sources, but if you were to look at the breakdown of where probably 90% of my email subscribers came from, it was from someone typing a search term into Google, and my post ranked somewhere on the first page usually. They click over to my blog, they read the post, and I would have a prominent opt-in there where they could subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
So I would try to have one main publishing platform, and choose whatever you like the best. If you're more of a writer like me, then do a blog. If you like video better, then do YouTube. Or maybe you like talking and do podcasts. So there's no right answer. It just really depends on you and also what your market likes to consume and how they like to consume media.
Mm-hmm.
So take that long-term approach, have your publishing platform, do content marketing. It does take a little bit to kick in, but once it kicks in, it's really good because
Mm-hmm.
it's free traffic you get, and you tend to get really high quality people too. Someone who's read a bunch of your content and been following you for a while is going to be much more likely to become a customer or a student in your course than someone that saw your Facebook ad today for the first time and you're pushing them towards a sale right away. Even if they buy, they tend not to be very good lifetime customers, and they tend to have higher refund rates than someone who's come through your content and be nurtured for a while. So that's the longer term approach.
Yeah, and it sounds like then search engine optimization is still very valuable in this digital marketing age.
Yeah, honestly, it's funny you bring that up. I was talking to someone today and saying, I just think it's really underrated right now. I think YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook have really overshadowed boring old SEO, but there's still a ton of people typing search terms into Google and all the other search engines every single day. So yeah, take advantage of that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from what I'm hearing, just in the marketplace, everyone's saying that Instagram and TikTok are currently the 2 big things for getting yourself like viral, marketing and whatnot.
Yeah.
Particularly with TikTok, I've heard these incredible stories of people that have posted like one little thing and then it's gotten shared to like, tens of thousands or millions of people in like 24 hours.
Yeah. I'm skeptical.
Okay, cool. I was just about to ask you, what are your thoughts on that? I will say I'm actually not on TikTok. This is just stuff that I hear in the industry from other people. And I also question how long that will last, because there's a lot of things that, they're a bit of a hype for maybe a few months or a year or so, and then they kind of just drop off. So it's like, I think you have to decide whether you want to jump onto the bandwagon or just go with the traditional, what's always worked, or a combination. I don't know. I mean, where do you stand with that?
Yeah. Well, I don't know. You can probably tell I'm much more of a principles and fundamentals kind of guy. So even though I do like digital marketing, I'm kind of old school like that. Like, for example, I'm just kicking off a print newsletter, like physical, hold in your hands, deliver in the mailbox kind of newsletter for my past clients, and I'm pumped about it.
Yep.
So I love that I'm getting into old school direct mail. So I don't doubt those stories at all. My question is, for every success like that, how many failures are there?
Yeah. Well, this is the thing, right? I mean, you can get lucky, but then, it's a less guaranteed approach in terms of.
Sure. Yeah. It's risky. It really is like rolling the dice. And, if you're serious about building your business, you really want to base it on that, on a gamble like that. So I prefer to do things that I know work. And I know that if you show up every single day and provide valuable content over your publishing platform, eventually that will work. It just will if you stick with it. And then, maybe you, to scratch that wild hair, that itch, you set aside 5% of your time, or maybe 10%, to experimenting in these other, playgrounds. That could be the way to do it.
Yeah, amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So I also want to ask you a little bit about just your entrepreneurial journey, because, for a lot of people that are just starting out in business, it's a combination of the skills they need, but also, more just the mindset. And I've been asking this question to everyone who's come on this podcast so far, which is, what was one of your biggest challenges in your entrepreneurial journey, and how did you overcome that?
Yeah, well, it's definitely being a solopreneur, working for myself, and the discipline side of it. Because no one ever really talks about that. I mean, it was a lot easier when I knew where I had to be every day, what time I had to be there, and what time I had to leave, or didn't have to leave. I was allowed to leave. I could stay as long as I wanted to. They were okay with that. But I mean, now that I'm on my own, and I have been for 6 years now, it's still, I'm better at it than I've ever been, but it's still a challenge to have that discipline and manage your time wisely. So the biggest thing that I've found has really been developing good habits. So having a really good morning routine, having a really good evening routine that's often overlooked, and time blocking has been a big one for me too. So setting aside blocks of time on the calendar where I know that block is for creating content, or for reaching out to people in my network, or for learning, or wherever it may be. So it's kind of like setting a budget for your time like you would for your money as well. That's a key thing in staying disciplined.
Totally. And also, I imagine you spend a lot of time, on the computer. How do you discipline yourself when you're on the computer to stop wasting your time with multiple tabs and social media and all of that?
Yeah. So my assistant, she's helped me out a whole lot with this, because she's amazing, and she's so smart and just so organized and so good at productivity. So one thing that I do now is I have a daily review, and she taught me this. So it's very simple. I have a spreadsheet. It's a Google sheet, and I have all my inboxes in there. And most people have more inboxes than they think. So Facebook notifications, my Gmail, of course, some Facebook groups that I'm in, Slack channels, all those things. I got probably around 10 to 15 of them. So I know that I have on my calendar, because I time block, and I put daily review on the calendar. So I'm not as tempted to go check all those things throughout the day, because I know when I'm going to get to them. So I let those inboxes build up. And then I know that it's usually in the afternoon sometime, I'll have an hour where I can go through and process those things.
Amazing. And so when you're on the computer and you've got set times, is it just a case of you just don't open any other tabs so that you can be focused, or how do you actually manage that?
Well, look, I'll be the first to admit, I'm far from perfect on this. I certainly get caught up in Facebook, those red bubbles or whatever they are popping up, and everything else. So I do what I can. One good tip is with Facebook in particular, and I kind of have to be on Facebook. I'm in Facebook groups and everything. So it's tough to be productive on Facebook, but I have to be on there. So one thing that I installed in my browser is this, what do they call it? Newsfeed Eradicator. Have you heard of this?
No, this is good. I probably need it.
Yeah. Install it. It's a game changer. So
is it an app, or what is it?
It's a plugin for Chrome.
A plugin for Chrome. Got it.
Yeah, and it'll wipe clear your newsfeed, because usually you get distracted on Facebook right when you log in, and then boom, you have all these posts on the newsfeed, right? Very distracting. So this eradicates the newsfeed as promised, and it replaces it with some Zen quote. It changes every day.
That is exactly what I need. Yes.
Yeah, you would like it.
I love it. Cool. So just listening to your journey, it sounds like you actually had a very beautiful transition from your workplace into doing this full time. I'm just curious as to if you've ever had a moment, as a solopreneur, where you've gone, oh, fuck this, I just don't want to do this anymore. A moment where you've just found it challenging and thought, oh, I'd rather just maybe go back to the workplace. And how have you then continued on your journey?
It's certainly crossed my mind from time to time. It sounds beautiful, and relatively speaking, it's been great. I mean, it's been really great, but it's also been really tough too. I mean, there have been some really, really tough days. I mean, I've had, plenty of launches, my own, and clients that haven't gone as planned. I certainly have my own flops. So when that happens, you always get those thoughts like, what the hell am I doing? Why did I give up this great career that I spent so much time in school to get, and all this money on a bachelor's degree and a master's degree? And I had, good salary and benefits and all that. It was great. And now I'm doing this crazy thing. So there have certainly been flashes of that. Absolutely. But at the end of the day, I look at it like it's a journey, it's a learning experience, and you have to be grateful for those failures because they teach you a lot of lessons. And I like that quote that life is either a daring adventure or nothing. And that's how I try to live it.
I love that. What was your biggest flop and what did you learn from that?
Yeah, I was really excited to launch a membership, a subscription for my beer brewing site, because I had all these products, these courses, and I wanted to do something that was monthly. And I did my research, and people said they were interested, but sometimes these things just happen. And I launched it, and it was just complete crickets. I think I got maybe like 2 people to sign up, and I was hoping for in that launch something like at least 50, more like 100. So that was just a big punch in the gut. But I went back to the drawing board. I spoke with my customers, and I realized that it was more so something that I thought that they wanted, but not really what they wanted. And that's a common mistake. And yeah, and I still make it from time to time, but you really have to find, what I've learned is you really have to find products for your customers, not customers for your products. So in hindsight, I would have done a better job of figuring out, okay, I'm agnostic about what I make, as long as it's in this area, this field of expertise, but where do you need the most help right now? That's what I should have done.
Right. So when you went back to these customers and spoke to them, I mean, what did you say? Did you put out a survey, market research? Did you call them? How did you actually go back to that drawing board and start again?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of talking to my customers on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
And no one does this, but it really is. It is the shortcut. So, I mean, I talked to dozens and dozens of my prospects and customers on the phone over the years, and it's so much more valuable than a survey. I mean, surveys are great, but I'm telling you, one customer interview on the phone is worth hundreds of survey responses.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd get them on the phone, and I would ask them. I wouldn't you don't want to lead them. You don't want to ask leading questions and lead them to your product. That's a big mistake when you're interviewing customers, but it's an easy trap to fall into. But you want to ask them about what their life is like, what their day is like, what their experience using, their experience within your topic, within your field is like. And then listen. It really is the key skill. You're not talking so much, you're listening. Mm-hmm. Because people will talk. Most people don't have other people who really listen to them and understand them. I mean, we live in a world where everyone is just waiting to jump in with their own opinion, right? They're not really hearing them. So when you can sit back and really hear what someone's going through and acknowledge them and ask probing questions that show that you understood what they said, then they're going to give you absolute gold. And as a copywriter, the best copywriters spend 80% of their time doing research and only 20% writing. So customer research really is the key to everything.
Right. Well, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, once you know what they want, then you can give them what they want. It's almost too simple when you put it like that.
Yeah. I'm going to give you an example of a product I created from customer interviews.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to make one. I knew it was going to be something around recipes, brewing beer, obviously, but I didn't know exactly what. And so I was talking to my customers, and I was asking them about how they pick the recipes they want to brew, and how they construct those, where they get them from. And I kept hearing this phrase over and over again. And they kept saying, well, I just want something that I can truly call my own, which was really interesting, because it wasn't so much I want to brew the best tasting beer possible, which if you're an outsider and you were writing copy for this niche, that's probably the headline you would write. It would be something like how to brew the best tasting beer in the world that all your friends love, right? Mm-hmm. Which is pretty good copy. It's not too bad. But through these interviews, I found out that taste is subjective. And so what tastes good to them might not taste good to someone else just because that person doesn't like that beer. And there's some wacky beer styles out there. For example, I brew a really mean sour ale. It's delicious, but a lot of people don't like sour ales, understandably. So, so I found out what mattered more to them was making something that they could really call their own, developing their own recipes. And so the positioning of the course that I created was around that. And it was actually called Call It Your Own. So how to create your own signature recipes from scratch.
Beautiful. So you had a course launch, it flopped, you went and reached out to these people, they told you what they wanted. And so you went and created something that they actually wanted. So then what happened? I mean, in terms of sales, can you give us some numbers?
Yeah, the conversion rate on that one, that was interesting. The conversion rate on that was, because the other one really flopped. This one was over 50%. So I had an interest list, and over 50% of the people purchased, and that just told me that I just nailed it. You know, the positioning of this. Yeah. So that one, let's see, I want to say that was like a $15,000 launch.
Yeah, amazing. Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. That's not
Yeah.
bad. It's not a bad
No,
launch. And do you still run that course? Is that something sort of ticks along in the background for you now?
no. So I actually sold the whole business. Yeah, I sold the website a few years back, 2017 now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
that's not
so
a bad way to do it.
the website is still up, but now the courses are retired. Although I came back, I came out of retirement about 4 months ago and taught my beer tasting class again. That was a whole lot.
I'm sure there are some people watching this that are like, damn, I really wanted to do that.
Well, maybe I might do the tasting one again, because that's a fun one, and like everyone can do that. It's not just for home brewers. I do it just like this on a webinar, and we all taste the same beer, people from all over the world. That was my best seller, actually, was the beer tasting class.
How does that work? Do you like ship them particular beers, or like how do you do
No, that's a challenge, but I picked 4 that are very widely available. And
Oh,
so
so they go and buy the beers and then you
they,
do the, okay.
they go and
That's a really cool idea. I love that. Yeah, that's
oh,
a,
there's a ton of fun. Yeah. I don't know how I figured out how to get paid to drink beer over the internet, but who knows?
well, this is it. You've just done it. I think you've just nailed like so many people's dream job by doing what you do.
Yeah,
Because
I
I'm
know.
sure, I'm sure I could go out, you know, on the streets and be like, oh, you know, if you had all the money in the world, what would you do? And there'd be people out there that would say, oh, well, I just want to drink beer and watch Netflix, right?
Yeah.
And you've just built a business that's like combined your passion of brewing and drinking and just gone, well, I'm going to make money off this. Like you've hit like the jackpot, I think, in entrepreneurship.
I know. And then I gave it up. Can you believe that? I don't know what I was. I'm too driven. That's what it is. I should have stuck with that. I should have just drink beer on the internet for the rest of my life.
Well, I get the feeling you probably still do behind the scenes.
Yeah, you know me.
That's cool. I love that. I love when people find their passion. It doesn't matter what it is, you know, it's like you find your passion, find a way to make money doing it, and then you just go and do more of that. And I think that's incredible. So now that you're not doing a lot of that beer stuff, what is your main project at the moment that you're working on?
So I love working with these niche online schools, and I love where the industry is headed. You know, like I said, my background is in traditional business, working with big companies. So I'm very growth minded. And I love helping these online course creators become more what we're calling, which is online education companies, because that's really what they are. So we have all clients in all sorts of niches, from 3D printing to productivity to kids yoga to flamenco dancing. And as I was saying earlier, like these are, you know, successful businesses, sometimes 7 figures or more.
Wow.
And so we're really on the cutting edge of this industry, and really just trying to define the model and find the best practices. So what is the best tech stack for an online school? What are the most effective marketing strategies? How do you deliver a really good customer experience, student experience? How do you take students deeper into your business? What kind of follow-up programs do you have after that initial course? So that's the main thing I'm working on right now, both with clients, and then I'm also a partner in a few online courses, and it's just a whole lot of fun.
Amazing. And Now you have worked with teachable.com. So tell us the story there of how you got involved in that and what you've been helping some of their course creators with.
Yeah, so yeah, it's so funny how these, when you can connect the dots looking backwards, right? So I was working with a client. Her name is Kimberly Snyder, and she's here in LA. She's a health expert, and she has a few best-selling books. She has one with Deepak Chopra. She's been on the Ellen Show, and she sells physical products, so like supplements, things like that, and also digital products, courses. And so I was helping her launch it was a yoga course at the time. And she was one of the first really big names on Teachable. Back then, it wasn't even Teachable; it was called Fedora. And because they were so new, the CEO Encore was very involved in everything, especially with the bigger customers. So that's how I got to know him. So we would email back and forth. We would work together to help make Kimberly successful. And he saw what I was doing and saw that I was working with all these other Teachable clients and online schools. And so they brought me on board as one of their marketing experts for their Teachable Experts program. So that's how I got linked up with them. And yeah, Teachable is great. It's a great platform.
Do you have any, maybe a rough estimate of how many course creators you've helped with their launches?
Well, it's a good question. I've been in over 40 niches. Mm-hmm. So I would imagine at least that. So yeah, probably been involved in at least 50.
Wow. And what are some of the biggest launches that you've helped with?
Oh, we did one in the work at home space. That was about a $500,000 launch, maybe a little bit bigger. We just recently wrapped up one in the writing space, which is really cool. Writing, like you wouldn't think that would be, a huge topic.
Are you talking like a how to write course, or what are we doing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, how to write course. And that was, I can't give exact numbers, but that was a 6-figure launch.
Yeah.
And then I've done a few in the computer programming niche, and also technical fields in general are doing really well right now, like coding. Yep. We need a lot of coders. So that's a really good place to be. Did a pretty big one in the machine learning space. So I like the, there's the big 3 niches. There's health, wealth, relationships, and I've certainly worked in those. But as you can tell, I really like the fun niches.
Cool. And what's like the weirdest course that you've ever helped launch? Like just in terms of the topic where you're like, what is that even?
Well, I did, it's not that weird now. I just didn't know about it before, but I did a Kundalini yoga launch. Okay. But I know that
I'm like, for my audience, that's very normal.
I'm originally from Virginia, so this is totally new for me.
I'm like, every second person watching on my end of this is probably familiar with Kundalini yoga.
Yeah, no. No, that was
I get that.
That was something I learned living in California. Yeah. But, no, so I worked with one course creator, and they had a course for flexibility for ballet dancers. Yep. And that was really cool. Another one was for raising goats in your backyard. That was pretty interesting.
Okay, that's not one you see every day.
No, it's a big thing though.
Well, this is the thing, right? I think from a mindset point of view, if anything, talking to yourself and also all the other people I've had on this podcast, I've learned that you can be successful in almost anything. I mean, of course, you have to do a bit of research and, check your market and things like that. But I mean, if you can make money teaching people how to raise goats in their backyard, and, and in yoga and in health and everything, and brewing beer, I mean, I think if anything, it's speaking to the fact that everybody has a skill or something that they can offer. They just need to have perhaps the confidence and then the right skill set to get that information out into the world.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Confidence, skill set, and the consistency too. That's a big part of it. It's not so much, you want to be good at marketing, but I tell you, these days, I weigh being consistent and being prolific as more important than being a quote unquote good marketer. Mm-hmm. Like I'd rather have an average marketer, or even like slightly below average, who just implements like crazy and just takes a lot of action, versus a marketer who has the best copy and the best ideas in the world, but they don't do much. They don't hit publish.
Right. Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of people out there that have this perfectionist streak in them. And yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Like consistency is key. And I don't know if you do you follow Gary Vee at all online?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
He was a big inspiration when I started my beer business because he was the wine
Right.
guy. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Cool. 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 Yeah, I love that. So Gary Vee's whole strategy is you just post as much as you can and just show up as much as possible in people's faces. Like his
Yeah.
entire message is just do something. Like get out there and do something. You know, because yeah, if you're that person with the best copywriting in the world and you're sitting there behind your computer and you're not actually putting it out there, the person who's writing the average copy and doing it 10 times a week is going to be more successful.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. It's, 80% of success is showing up. It really is true.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Well, this has been a lot of fun. Do you have
Yeah.
any other tips or advice that you would give to somebody who's just starting out in the online course
Mm.
space?
Yes. If they're just starting out, yes, I have a really good tip for you. What you don't want to do, and what too many people do, is they want to create a course. So they go into a cave somewhere and they have this nice video studio with expensive cameras and lighting and backdrop and everything. They film a beautiful course and they edit it. They get it up on a nice website, spend a bunch of money on a website, get it all perfect. And then they go announce it to the world and nothing happens. So I'm a big believer in doing beta tests and starting really small and getting validation. So your first step in building an online course is not to create the course, it's to get validation that someone is willing to buy whatever your idea for a course is.
Mm-hmm.
So start with that, start with the audience, make sure that money is exchanged, and then go create the thing. You'd be surprised. People are if you involve them in the creation process and you say like, hey, I'm just kind of testing this thing out. Do you want to buy it? Give them a good price for it. They will be very tolerant of a less than perfect, less than polished course.
Right. And you just give it to them super cheap or whatever, right? And get a bit of feedback and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. You got to know, they're not going to, if they're not buying it, then they're not going to buy it when it's really polished, right? Because the offer is the most important thing, the thing that you're promising them. So get that right first, and then invest in building out your amazing looking course.
Right. That's an amazing tip. Is that what you did when you created that second beer brewing thing?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I took people through, as a group the first time.
Right. And can we just run some numbers on that? So what was that course priced at?
Oh God, I'm not going to remember these numbers too well. Because this was so long ago. That was a $99 course.
So when you were first getting validation, did you sell it at 99 or did you say, hey, look, this is just in testing and I just want to get some feedback and do it cheaper?
No, I did it cheaper the first time. Yeah, that was the full price. Yeah,
Right.
so I want to say it was probably below $50, probably $30 to $50.
Right. So you get a bunch of people that buy at a low price point. You know that your idea is valid because people are willing to put money on it. And then you use that to go and build out the full course and then charge it full price. Yeah.
You got it.
Amazing strategy. I love it. Cool.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, I hope today has inspired people that are watching this to perhaps look into online courses, online education companies, because whether you're a coach, health, wellness, rising entrepreneur, we all have so much in terms of knowledge. The thing that we're good at, the thing that we've actually mastered, our skill that has value in the world. So thank you so much for coming in today and actually sharing your expertise on how people can take their knowledge and start exploring this avenue of online courses, because it is such a booming industry at the moment. And I think there's a massive opportunity here for some of these rising entrepreneurs to go out there and just expand on what they're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks so much for having me. You're an excellent interviewer, by the way.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. I've actually learned a lot today and I'm so grateful just for you coming on the show. So tell us, for the people that are watching this, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, easiest way is to go to my website, billybross.com, BROSS. And I got all my social links on there and everything. And then if you go to, there's a training link. It's just billybross.com/training. I'm really big on email marketing. That's my main channel. I send a daily email, weekdays only, but a daily email. And I've got some good email trainings on there you can check out. And there's one on email copywriting called the 20-minute email challenge. That's pretty popular.
Beautiful. I'm sure that will help a lot of people. Thank you so much, Billy. It's been amazing. And yeah, I hope that people get a lot of inspiration and take action on everything that we've spoken about today. So it's been a pleasure having you here. And for those of you watching, thank you. It's been another amazing episode of Success from the Soul with Eesha Patel featuring Billy Bross today. Thanks, guys.